Hey, you guys, welcome to another episode of the Fulfilled and Fit podcast featuring our Inspiring People interview series today. I'm Jessie Perry, your host, and today I am joined by Lauren Jilek. I am so excited to have her on the show. You're going to get to hear from her in just a second, but I am just thrilled to have her on. Lauren and I have connected virtually. It's been a while, actually. I would definitely say, I don't know, a year and a half, almost 2 years. Something like that. We have been connected, and she is just one of those people I was instantly drawn to. I felt like she was my soul sister from the beginning, and so I'm so excited to have her on today, and you guys get to hear a piece of her heart too. So, Lauren, why don't you give us a brief description and introduction of yourself?
Yes, awesome. I'm so happy that you asked me to do this. I'm honestly very inspired by everything that you've done and just seeing you all across social media platforms. It's been really awesome. But my name is Lauren Jilek. I am a strength and conditioning and nutrition coach in Kansas City, Missouri. I actually work on the Kansas side. It's a weird little split. But anyway, I live in Missouri. And then I'm the branding coordinator for Boost Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. So we have 7 locations. We're part PT, part sports performance. So it's a nice little blend of all things movement and wellness and health. And it's a small business. It's locally owned. It's family owned. So the values and all that kind of thing are definitely aligned with mine. So otherwise, you can find me at work. Otherwise, I'm working out for sure. I'm very active. Love to throw some weight around. I love my family and friends. I've built a great community here in Kansas City through my church, which, I'm sure I'll dive into a little bit more. I love cooking. I love food. I'm such a foodie.
Yes. This is why we're soul sisters.
Yeah.
Why.
I just started meal prepping. So I obviously meal prep for myself, but I've recently, kind of started meal prepping for a coworker of mine, and then, some other friends too. So it's been cool to,
oh, I didn't know that. Can you ship to us?
It's been fun. It was kind of, something that I was like, oh, this could, people need this. People that what we're all, we can all say that we're pretty time poor. We don't have, a lot of time on our hands. And so it's something I love to do. I love cooking, and, I love you if I cook for you, truly. So that's like one of my love languages. So yeah, I love sharing that with people and, making their lives a little easier, and, in turn they get delicious food, hopefully. And then, they feel great and all of that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Love it. I love it. Love it. Awesome. So obviously with the Fulfilled and Fit podcast, we, the purpose of this is obviously to just highlight ordinary people doing extraordinary things and kind of diving into faith. And recently I've been thinking about this a lot internally as well. I'm going to be doing a podcast about it, but as I'm kind of just trying to pray over what this podcast should be and what this community should be and what I feel like, I started this because I needed a community, right? And I feel like one of the hardest things is to just start your faith journey. And so, the podcast is really going to focus on faith and how people build their faith and stay consistent with it and how they really got into it, as well as obviously highlighting service and gifts and cool things people are doing. But let's start from kind of the top. Can you tell us a little bit about your faith? Like, was this something that you've recently developed? Was it something that's always been ingrained in you? Like, can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I was raised Lutheran. My parents raised me in a Lutheran church. My dad's side, him growing up, he was a Catholic, very strict Catholic. And, when he married my mom, they chose to raise us in a Lutheran church. Church was always just something we did. My parents were really actively involved, which was awesome. I was baptized at a young age. I did the whole confirmation thing in 8th grade.
You did.
Yeah, it was just something that I did. It was something my family was involved in. For me, there was no depth to it. Honestly, I remember like when I was really young, like screaming my eyes out and not wanting to go to church. And then my parents bribed me with food, of course. They're like, oh, afterwards we'll get like KFC. Honestly, it was KFC.
Yes.
Yes, like perfect, like I'll sit through an hour of church for like KFC afterwards. And so, yeah, it was really surface level for me, but, I was involved. My parents are obviously both singers. I love to sing.
Oh,
And, so we were all in the choir together.
that's
So
amazing.
I was in this adult choir with them. But yeah, I mean, it was very surface level. I definitely would say, my dad's transition from being a Catholic into the Lutheran side, and how his family reacted to that. Um, that created some questions for me. But I knew that, my parents were making the best decision for our family. And I was, still trying to figure out what that faith thing meant and
Yeah.
like who God was. And like, why are there three names for one person? And like, Jesus is God's son, but like people use that interchangeably. Like I just didn't understand. There was like so much going on. So really it was like a social thing for me, as I got older. I did the confirmation thing, met a lot of my friends, and ended up like switching schools because of the relationships that I had made, in middle school and high school. So, so I definitely knew, right away it was like a social thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just really no depth there. So yeah, that's kind of how I started.
Okay. Cool.
And then it really just kind of evolved from there, I would say, as I've kind of been on my own too. So
Yeah. So would you say that I love that, and it's very cool. I come from, my parents had me do all of this stuff, to the Catholic stuff of getting confirmed and baptized and going to Sunday school. But it was more of just a formality that we followed. It wasn't like we didn't go to church regularly or anything like that. So my parents are super supportive of me exploring my own options and developing my own faith, but it's not something that is big in our household by any means yet. I hope it will change one day, but we'll see. And so, growing up that way and then kind of changing and creating your own faith is something, not creating your own faith, but developing into your true belief is something I can totally relate to. So for you, was there a certain time of your life that you really feel like you had this shift, or was there a moment or something that happened that kind of really helped you start diving deeper into your faith?
Yeah, definitely. I would say turning point, why a couple of them. The first one was when my dad passed away. So it was April, actually like 7 years ago this month.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, so 7 years ago, I was like a month away from high school graduation. It was like a freak accident, and I would say that was definitely turning point number one. I was a high school senior. I was like on the cheer squad. I was dating like star football player who was going to play in, college. And, I really had like life under control, honestly. Or I felt that I did. I was, doing really well in school. I was a perfectionist. Like I was really trying to get involved and be involved, and, had some great friends. And from the outside looking in, I had created this like perfect cookie cutter life.
Right.
So yeah. And then my dad passed, which is like, okay, hey, like everything you thought you had under control, you don't have under control. And, none of this is yours to hold on to. And, you don't get to keep like, these things aren't yours to keep and have, and all those kind of things. So that was turning point number one. I was in a really, really dark place. Went through that summer, ended up going to University of Iowa that fall as a freshman. And I was just I didn't want to do the sorority thing. I knew a couple people that were going to University of Iowa. So tried to like stay with them and hang out with them. But my boyfriend was there, he was playing football. So, I tried to, build relationship based on relationships I already had. But really was in such a dark place and didn't really see, I didn't really see the light. I didn't know where to go because I was just like so homesick. I was only 45 minutes from home, but so homesick, just wanted to be home. Just didn't want to get involved, honestly. So yeah. And then one of my close friends from home, Jamie Printy, shout out, her and a couple of her friends from the women's basketball team called me, and they were like, hey, like there's a new church starting up. You should come check it out. It's like a college. We went to a college night. and
Cool.
it was startup. So literally college night was held in a bar.
That's that's awesome.
Yeah, downtown Iowa City. I think it was at the Blue Moose for a little bit. And it was like it was tucked away in the back of the bar. There was like a stage area where they would have performers. But yeah, so there would just be, some worship music, and then a little bit of like a sermon of the word or whatever. And then, just like hanging out with these people that were
Yeah.
here for the same thing.
Right.
And honestly, that was like, I thought at the time that was life-changing. I feel like now my second turning point was even more life-changing. But that was the first time I like felt the presence of God in my life, honestly.
That's cool.
It took like months. I kept going back. I knew there was something about this place and these people that I was like, this is cool. And, it's just a really fulfilling, like positive, uplifting, life-giving environment. And I just knew I wanted to keep getting there.
Right.
So yeah, I just kept going back. But yeah, I remember we went to like a sleepaway thing over the weekend. And I remember like my friends putting hands on me because I just like broke down during a song. And like I had to like sit down, and like them putting their hands on me and like praying over me. And like I'd never had that before. Yeah, I really, really felt God in those moments. So that was really cool for me.
Wow.
And from then on, I just kept being, really diligent and going to church and things like that. So that was definitely turning point number one for me, where I knew that I was like, okay, this is a little deeper than, like the rituals and the religion of it,
Right.
like
It's like that community and it's real, and you can feel God moving in those moments and the way that your life twists and turns that you just did not see coming.
totally. And I think it definitely, that particular turning point helped me understand like the death of my dad. And it was funny, like, and even in the songs we would sing or things like that, like the understanding of death and of God's victory over death. And like what my dad's death meant, and means for like my life and how I do get to see him again. And, just like how cool that is. And I think, that was really just such a support for me as I learned to like, navigate through my grief. And, it was just like that promise of like, hey, like, like his death is like the beginning of like, this eternal life, this amazing setup that God has for us. And, I felt peace knowing that like my dad had fulfilled his purpose on earth. And God really told me that, like I was hearing from all these people about like the legacy that my dad had left. And I was like, yeah, like I really think that like my dad did what he needed to do on this earth. And like, so it was cool to see that, and for me, like in the getting some closure and some of that, some of my grief was really, really helpful. So.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
It's crazy how God will weave these things and then teach us these things, right? Like you just don't see so many things coming, but these things are like the puzzles of the pieces of the puzzle of our life, right? And ultimately the picture is like adding up to him and adding up to leaving our legacy and fulfilling our purpose until we get that eternal life. So that's really cool. How do you work on strengthening your relationship with God every day? Like, I feel as though a lot of people tell me they struggle with connecting. So for you, is it like a daily ritual, something? Is it music? Is it journaling? Is it, praying out loud? Or what do you do it could be weekly, daily, monthly. I don't know what your pattern is, but I would love for you to share that.
Definitely, my second turning point was getting involved in the Cause Church here in Kansas City. So this has like changed my life in terms of like how I build my relationship with God, and how, it's an everyday pursuit. So the first thing for me was to just get in community and to understand that like me isolating myself and, hardening my heart a little bit to the world, knowing that, there's a lot of terrible stuff going on in the world, and it's really easy to, instead of, just like close yourself off to it and get, harden your heart. But in doing that, like God intends for us to be in community, and to get to know other people and to be vulnerable. And that's one thing I really struggled with. So, getting involved at a church was like first and foremost when I came to Kansas City, because I wanted to make that home. I wanted to make this home.
Right.
I got in community, started going to church regularly. I also got involved in a Bible study group through my church. So we actually had that last night. So we have it Monday nights. It's a fitness group, which is awesome.
That's amazing. So what do you do?
So my girl owns a gym in Kansas City, and we work out for like half an hour. And then so it's like workout in the Word. So then
I need to start that.
Yes. No, it's great. And
wait, like legitimately, when you see me post that I'm starting it, it's because of you. I'll give you credit, but I need that in my life. So I definitely am going to start that.
It's amazing. And yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. So
I'm really jealous. I'm so jealous right now.
Yes. We meet every Monday night. And that's really helped in terms of like me breaking my walls down a little bit and being vulnerable and letting people see like the ins and outs of my heart. And, coming from a perfectionist who like wants to look like I have it all together, like I'm learning to break out of that a little bit, which is so cool. So community, number one. Number two, like my personal, I think faith can be really, really personal. Even though we're meant to be in community, I think it's, your relationship with God is so personal.
Right.
So I always, like, first and foremost, when I wake up, I have the Bible app on my phone.
Awesome.
And I'm doing the Rick Warren 1-year devotional right now.
Cool.
Rick Warren's amazing.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, girl, we gotta chat.
I love that. I love suggestions.
Yes, he's so good. So I do his devotional, and then I usually have one or two others that are cycling around. So right now I'm doing one on choices, and like it's basically, every morning it's like a new question. So will you choose humility? Will you choose generosity? Will you choose or hope or things like that? So I usually
can you send that to me, that link, and I can link it up in the show notes.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so I usually just pick, devotionals that are kind of fitting for like what I'm going through right now. And then we also have at my church, we have a 1-year Bible reading plan. And I've never read the Bible. Okay. So this is crazy. Growing up, and I used to talk to my mom about this. I was like, people know so much about Bible stories. I know, like, okay, so
Noah. Noah's Ark.
Yeah, Noah's Ark, Christmas, like David and Goliath, So like when people can like just pull out names like Saul and like Peter, I'm like, oh, that's great. Like I've never read it. So, so timely that my church was doing a 1-year Bible reading plan. So I'm doing that as well. So those are the two things I do in the morning. And then I definitely make sure that whether it's right after that or through the course of my morning, because I kind of have a flexible morning in terms of working from home or working from, a coffee shop or whatever. I'm for sure listening to a podcast. So either Rick Warren or Andy Stanley is another fave.
Yes, Andy Stanley. Oh my gosh, he is amazing. Love him.
Right.
Listen to Craig Groeschel.
No, but I've heard of him. Actually, someone
will love him.
Said him. Yeah.
You will love him. Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. Phenomenal.
I love podcasts, and honestly, I don't listen to like really music anymore, which is sad because I'm just listening to like podcasts because I just like there's so much good word coming out. So podcasts for sure. And then I try, and every day I just journal. So depending on what's going on, or I'll journal about like my devotionals and like try and like leave some space for God to like speak to me about what that means for my particular day or things like that. So that's kind of my ritual. I like to like regardless of how it looks, because every day is a little different depending on what my schedule looks like. But I definitely want like, my church really talks about like giving your first and best to God. And so that's really my emphasis there. And no matter what I'm doing, like it's easy, I always have my phone. I can always look into my devotional. And I just want to give my first to God so that, because that kind of dictates how the rest of my day goes.
I love that. We're so like I knew that you were going to say all this stuff basically because I knew we were soul sisters. No, but I totally agree with everything that you said. I do it first thing in the morning too. I swear to you, it makes a difference, doesn't it? And real quick before we kind of move on, it's funny that you were talking about how some people just know the stories of the Bible, and that for me, I got involved with my church and I do a Bible study with them. Actually, it's a women's group. It just ended though, like last week. And one of the things I was saying is, our Bible study was a Jenny Allen study, and that was my first exposure to her, which she's phenomenal. And it was focused on David's life and chasing after God and all this stuff. And for me, I look at some people, I don't know if you do this too, it kind of sounds like you might, and they just is so evident that God is seeping in every part of their life. Yeah. Like you'll say something about how you feel that morning and they'll relate it to, Sarah in the Bible. And I'm like, how did you actually just do that? And I try to give myself grace because obviously, my faith journey has really only been 3 years, and no one's going to know everything. But I just admire people who can pull things out and reference that. The word is so seeped into them and into their lives that they find those connections. And so I was talking to, my friend, my mentor, she's actually my pastor's wife, and she leads our women's group, and she is going to be doing another Bible study in the next session called Seamless. And it apparently walks you through how to read the Bible so it all makes sense. I know someone else who's going through it now and can't stop raving about it. And I personally, I don't know if you feel this way, I feel like I feel like I need to be in scripture, in the word. And I feel like that makes such a difference. And I do daily devotionals too, but I feel like I have to be in the actual Bible and reading it, and that's when I feel most connected. So I think I'm going to start that Seamless.
That's amazing. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I will. I just wanted to mention it to you because I don't know if you feel that way too, but I really just love those people, and I want to be one of them.
Yeah, I think, the more and more I read in the Bible, and not just like I, used to, again, even in diving into my relationship with God, keep it kind of surface level and like just read a devotional. And I'm not saying, I think we're all in different, obviously, levels of our faith, but that was like just doing a devotional for me was like still putting a barrier between like God actually communicating to me. And I think he communicates best through his word and through prayer time and through like silence and space. And, for me, it was like, initially it was like, yeah, these devotionals are awesome and God is speaking to me through them. And then it was like, I got comfortable there and, I just want to keep like just pursuing and keep getting closer. And, I want my first instinct, like when I'm in traffic or when I'm at work or whatever, I want it to be like a Jesus response.
Yes.
And the closest I can get to that is like being in the word, like you said, and just reading the stories and just, bringing in some application and journaling about it. And then, praying about it and leave some space for, there's days when I like read certain passages and I'm like, how was that like today? Like I needed that today. Like how did that happen? So it's been really cool. And, it takes sacrifice, like my mornings are, really important to me. And the way I start it is like everything. And I think, being able to give my time over to God and like be like, hey, like steer my morning, before I do anything, steer it because, I think that just makes me a better lover and friend and,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you feel like there is a certain aspect of your faith that you feel like is most important? I don't know if it's something like service or your personal application of the word or community, or, I mean, we've already touched on so much of this. I didn't know if there was one that stuck out to you. Like, let's say you could only pick one, and I'm kind of throwing this at you because it wasn't a question, but, I'm curious, just based off of our conversation, if there is one that sticks out most to you that maybe helps you the most or has made the most impact on your life.
I would definitely say, between service and community, honestly. I think getting involved with my church, and giving my time has been like, God has moved mountains for me because of my choice to serve. And I think, God wants us to first and foremost just love him, and then love people. And that doesn't take, the knowledge of the Bible stories, or it doesn't take like, doing rituals and checking boxes, it's like, he just wants you to love people. And so I right away at my church, got involved with they're called Cause Kids. It's our kids
Cool
club, that we have during services. So I do that. And then I'm also on the worship team too. So I'm one of the vocalists. And I think, just giving my time over and, meeting new people and hearing other stories and being able to like affect, like from, little, like I work with preschoolers and we call them, we're preparing the next generation of world changers. And I think, having that kingdom mindset of like, okay, this is generational, that's been really cool for me. And I'm just trying to stay like focused in that. And just serving has been awesome. And in serving, I feel, I've built my community too. Like I've gotten more involved in our Connect group and which is our Bible study. And then, just meeting people, just having like relationships that are deeper than I've ever really had before.
Yeah.
They're not surface level, like there's a time and place, and there's people that, you will just have surface level relationships with.
Oh yeah.
That are worldly based and, things like that. And I think those can be, those are great and fine. But definitely the relationships I built here and at the Cause Church are beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And so I think that's both of those, serving and community, go hand in hand in terms of their effect on me and what God's doing in and through me, outside of those things too. So
that's amazing. I love it. And I feel like being a part of a community just strengthens your faith so much more. It's so challenging to build your faith alone. It's so challenging. And when you're around a community, especially in the local church, you just hear so many testimonies, so many circumstances other people are going through. You get so much support above and beyond outside of church too, right? Like I have friends from church who are offering, can we help you with the move? I'm like, oh my God, like, I mean, I'm maybe like, sure. It's just, I feel like to have that community go up, it's a community that goes above and beyond for you and for God, and I think it just really helps to strengthen my faith too, being involved in something like that.
Yeah. And it makes it, not just a Sunday. It's not a Sunday faith. It's not just that, I connect groups on Monday. It's not just a Sunday, Monday faith. It's a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, faith. And, I think that's, the ultimate goal is to like, I just want to be immersed in it. And I want other people to like feel this like faith and hope and love and grace, that like we get to feel from, from God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say is the thing that you think is the coolest about God?
He's so cool.
I know. The coolest though.
Yeah.
The coolest. Let's say you had to pick one.
I think what I'm learning now is, the coolest thing that I'm learning now is, that it's a relationship, and that, I'm really trying to tap into, like God as my best friend. Like
love that.
Like praying out loud and seeing him in that light. I've always seen him as a, like a God, like a pedestal, like he wants us to do these things. He wants, because he's like our parent, but in that, I mean, the love that he has for us and the way yeah, he just like loves on us and the things he wants for us and the way he reacts to like even the times we make mistakes, like he's just so grace giving and like love filled. And, we don't always get that from like earthly relationships. If we make a mistake or we slip up or things like that, we think that like the weight of the world is then going to be put on our shoulders or we have to feel guilt or shame. And God, no, like, I don't want that for you. So I think that's the coolest thing right now for me is just to, I really want to grow in that relationship with him and see him in that light. And I think that it's so cool that, he continues to elevate, your commitment and your relationship with him and, the shift from how you see him in your life. So, it's been cool. I think he's done so many cool things. And I think above it all, like he's just a cool friend to have, like
I agree. He's so different than what we can even really comprehend that there's so many cool things, but I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I have like 2 more questions if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
It's okay here to brag about yourself a little bit. What is a gift that you feel like God has placed in your heart or has given to you that you have been able to utilize in your life?
Sure. I think one of them which I didn't think was a gift at first, because I've always told it's not a gift. I'm really, really sensitive.
That's a gift.
Yeah. And honestly, I've always been told, like, you're too sensitive. Why do you cry all the time? Like, and, a friend of mine, the one that actually owns the gym and like runs the Bible study, she's me basically. And, she's my twin and she's the same, I think I feel for people. I want to, care for people. I want to love on people. And, so I think that's definitely one of my gifts. And the second one probably is, I'm discovering now in leading worship. I love to sing and like
love your snaps when you sing.
Yeah, thank you. I love to sing and I love that I can use it for the glory of God. I love what, the cause like worship team. I love the, how the director puts everything together. And it's just like, again, most importantly, like just amazing people that I work with. And, we all have like the best intentions and like God first in our hearts. So, that's been so cool. And I think, that's definitely been one of my like favorite gifts lately is just, like being able to worship and praise and like show others what it means to like, worship God and things like that, so I love that. Yeah.
Those are 2 incredible gifts, and being sensitive and empathetic, I feel like is such a gift because it allows you to build more authentic relationships with people. And obviously I'll just tell you, I am super jealous of your gift to be able to lead worship because I feel like, man, I would be awesome at it, except for the fact that I can't sing. So other than that, though, I would totally rock it.
I love it. Hey, effort counts too. Effort matters.
Oh, I'm in the pews like, woo! Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. So I guess our last question, because I want to respect your time and our listeners' time as well, is what would be one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is trying to strengthen their faith, whether they're just starting their journey or they are in a similar position where they're going maybe from one type of faith to another, or they need to just reignite their fire and their love for God again. What is a piece of advice you may give to someone?
I would say, and this is probably advice, sorry, I'm sitting on my bed, so I'm like trying to move my leg. I would say lean in. I think, there's seasons of like my faith too, that I'm like, I don't feel God in, the way that I always have. But my advice would be to just lean in, and like jump in head first, get involved, get in a community. And in that community, that still takes effort too, especially like, that's what I've been learning too. It's not just show up, listen to Bible study and then leave. Like I want to build relationships with people, and I want to not only like keep my community, but I want to bring people into that community. I want it to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely just say lean in, find some trusted people that like know God's will and, what his purpose and plans are. I mean, we don't always know the plans and how it's going to look, but we know God is faithful and we know his promises. And I think that's really important to have those people around you that can remind you of those things in, the midst of like a down and out season, or, whether you're just kind of like starting into your faith. So yeah, I would definitely say lean in, community, start serving.
Yeah.
I think, last night in Bible study and this, this sermon that we talked about on Sunday, it was the opportunity. And, even if we don't know where we're going, we don't know what path we're on, we're always in a position to, give to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, if you feel like you're lacking something in your life, and I do this, I do this too. This is, something that I really cling to is like, if you need blank, give blank. So if I need love, if I need forgiveness, I need to give it first. Mm-hmm. So, and that can be I think that's a great thing to do, whether you're a believer or whether you're not a believer, Absolutely. Just like thinking of, turning outwardly and thinking of other people before your needs first. I think at the end of the day, like God is always going to come through. And no matter where you're at on your faith journey or your non-faith journey or wherever you're at in general, I just think that, you become who God wants you to be in the process of loving and giving to others. So I would say lean in for sure and just love on others and, have those trusted people around you. So
I love that. That was perfectly summed up. I love it. Before we kind of close, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on our podcast today. You just shine, to be perfectly honest. You really do. Your love for God, your love for people, the amazing things that you're doing, for God and with health and fitness and things like that. I mean, it's just truly incredible. And I'll be sure to link in our show notes how people can kind of contact you and be in connection with you. But I know too, we didn't have time to super touch on it, but since you do work with, health and fitness and things like that, do you want to just give people a quick shout out on a place that they could connect with you?
Yeah. So, you can find me on social media. It's just my first name, last name,
Okay.
Lauren Jilek. And then I also started a brief initiative last year. It's called Body by Balance. It's up on bodybybalance.net. So you can log on there. You can kind of get an idea of my philosophy in terms of health and wellness and nutrition and, listening to your body. So yeah, and I'd love to, you can get a little background on me, but social media is, a great way to connect to me, and I'd love to chat. So
awesome. And we'll link that up too. So thank you again, Lauren. I truly just appreciate you sharing your heart with myself and then our listeners today. I know that they are going to listen to this and just think, wow, this is amazing, and be more encouraged to follow God. So thank you again for hopping on today.
Of course. Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome. All right, you guys, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fulfilled and Fit podcast. Have a good day.